Benvinguts y benvingudes, bienvenidos, bienvenidas, welcome. This is Women in Data at WiDxERNI. I'm Adelis Nieves, the Women in Data chapter lead here in Barcelona. And next one. So yeah, well, this is our February meetup event. And yeah, we're really thankful with WiDxERNI for hosting us today. And I want to thank you, everyone, for being here, especially Sarah, our speaker. And thank you so much also to my partner, Alicia Horst, the EMEA leader. And yeah, well, let's do this. Oh, could you please give me that? And I'm gonna just taste it. Okay, so our event agenda today is going to be, well, a quick introduction I'm going to make about Women in Data, who we are, how we do things, and then I'm going to leave you with Enrique Domingo, who's going to talk about a little bit of overview about the company. And then we're going to have our super Sarah Langas talking about some data stuff. And after that, we're going to have a nice networking session to talk each other and, you know, have some drinks and food. And well, let's talk a little bit about Women in Data. Women in Data is a diverse community of data leaders, practitioners, learners, and data citizens with a mission to increase diversity in data. So I'm going to bring some numbers here because for me it's important. And last year, well, it was expected 2.7 million people working in data and analytics, and around 800,000 were women. So we're trying to, our goal is try to increase that number in 3.5 million by 2030. So yeah, maybe you are asking yourself, how are we going to do that? And we have three main things we do to support this is, well, first of all, try to support opportunities in data for women throughout their career. We have a membership and programs that you can join and have education, professional development, mentorship, and coaching. And the second thing we do is building a welcoming and empowering community, and we do that through our chapters around the world and our social media groups. And last but not least, we try to inspire change and thought leadership across the industry, and we cannot do that without our sponsors, donors, and partners. So we are really, really glad to, with every partnership we do, and we want to give a special thank here, WiDxERNI, for hosting this event and making this possible, that we can share our experience, knowledge, and yeah, grow together. So our community, well, I'm really glad to say this, that our community this year is a global community of more than 40,000 people with members in more than 55 countries and chapters in 60 cities. And I need to say that I'm really proud that we currently have 11 chapters in the EMEA region, and we have chapters in Netherlands, Spain, Germany, United Arab Emirates, Estonia, Israel, Pakistan, England, Luxembourg, Kenya, and Nigeria. And especially here in Spain, we have two, the Barcelona chapter and the new one, Madrid. So if you want to spread the word and say someone in Madrid, we have a chapter there, a new one. So what else? I want to, show a little bit of our chapter. We are since 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. So we're working, at the very beginning, we were working just online, and now since last year, we are trying to make possible these events in person one. So we do monthly meetings, remote and in person. We run tech talks, workshops, panel discussions, and networking. And we try to, about local mentorship cohort with our volunteers. So what else? yeah, we want to hear from you, of course, and if you need any other information about women in data or our membership or something, you can go to our webpage. We also have a couple of groups, LinkedIn one and Slack channel one. I set some QR codes over there if you want to scan them after the event. So you can join our social media. And also, well, I want to recommend our datalake podcast that we have on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They have amazing episodes about how women transition to data careers and special, stories about how this is happening. And well, say that, I'm going to head it up to Enrique Domingo, who's going to present ERNI.
The microphone.
Okay. I don't know if I did this, okay?
Okay.
Go.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to ERNI. So I'm Enrique Domingo. I'm a machine learning and software engineer at ERNI, and I want to present also to Ayose, who is our principal of data and AI at ERNI. He's not here yet, but he will come later, so feel free to reach me or him later in the networking. So ERNI is a Swiss consultancy company that started more than 20 years ago at Switzerland, but now we are spread around the world and we are growing in people and more countries. Spain, I think that is the largest one so far, but yeah, and USA, for example, is our recent new offices there. So these are our mission, vision, and values. So we engage with companies for long-term relationships, and also we care a lot about people, and we want to grow with people, helping them and also our companies. These are our main sectors, so those are the companies that we have been working more with, especially in healthcare, pharma, but also automotive. Those are the strongest ones, the ones that we have more expertise. But we also have projects and customers and other sectors like these ones, gaming, banking, and other ones. These are some of our customers. It's only an example. We have more, but these are some of the largest ones. You can see here that most of them are pharma companies, for example, but also gaming, automation, and other industries. And yeah, feel free to check this QR. It's the same that is there. This will bring you to our open positions and our LinkedIn. So feel free, because we have some, for example, at data engineering. So feel free to check them. And that's all for my part.
At the end of the talk, we're going to set all the full QR codes we have from ERNI and Women in Data, so we can scan it.
Okay.
So I think now I'm going to present our speaker. Okay, our speaker is Sara Langas. She's over there, and she's from Barcelona. She's a lead data engineer at Cognizant and a volunteer in Women in Data. So thank you so much for you being here. And she's going to talk about how to build a data lake from scratch. So let's do it. Thank you. This is going to be for you. I don't know what.
Maybe I can just
go have it here.
Okay. So hello everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Sara Langas, and I have been working in the data field for the past 7 years. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. And we are going to talk about the main tools that are needed to build a data lake. And as you will see, this won't be a very technical talk, but rather an overview of all the the different tools that are needed to build a data lake. And this is the agenda for today. So we will first speak about what is a data lake. We will see the different cloud providers. We will talk about storage architecture, ETL and ELT tools. We would also see what is orchestration and which are the deployment tools. We will also talk about the visualization and analytics. And at the end, we will also talk about data governance and data quality. Then we will have a few minutes of questions and answers. So if you have any question during the session, please feel free to ask them at the end of the talk. So what is a data lake? So a data lake, as you can see here, is a centralized repository that stores both structured and unstructured data at any scale. In other words, it's an unlimited space where we can store our data. The data lake is designed to store any type of data, raw, unprocessed, unstructured, also structured, and it can be images, files, logs, videos, emails, whatever you can think of. So before I start talking about which tools you need to build a data lake, I would like to talk about the different main cloud providers. So there are plenty, but the most used one are Amazon Web Services or AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. So choosing one over another will depend on your type of business. Also, it can also depend on if you have on-premise or legacy services in, I don't know, Microsoft, for example, who you plan to do business with, etc. I will try to give examples of tools in each of them, but I'm more, I've been used the AWS for the past few years, so that's the one that I'm more comfortable with. So one of the most important decisions that you will have to make when building a data lake is regarding the storage. How are you going to store your data, or how is your storage architecture going to be? There are typically three blocks or layers. So the first one would be the ingestion layer. Here you will have raw data that is coming from any kind of source. No data processing or transformation will be done in this layer, and you can have Excel files, images, text, whatever. The second layer would be the staging layer, and here you may find data that is structured and also unstructured. So this layer will be like the first step to clean your data and to do quality checks. So here data will start to make more sense, but it will still need to be transformed in order to be consumed. In the third layer, or the processing layer, you will have the data ready to be consumed by other processes like visualization tools, analytics, machine learning models, other projects, applications, etc. So you can store the data in partitioned files in any of the previous layer, but in this layer is where partitioning becomes a necessity. So what is partitioning? Partitioning means to store your data in separated paths depending on specific fields, normally in days, months, and year, as you can see in this image. So a new partition will be created every day that you receive the data, and this has a huge impact in how you access your data, because it's much more efficient and you can take advantages of the metadata that is stored in each partition with tools like Apache Iceberg. So now that we have our data lake divided in different layers, we have to talk about the ETL or ELT tools. So I guess that you already know what it means. So ETL is the acronym of extract, transform, and load, and it's the process that allows you to extract data from any kind of source, transform it into a structured format, and then send that data into a target destination. So the ETL paradigm has been used for a very long time, and over the past few years, a new paradigm has come, which is ELT. So ELT takes the approach of the ETL process and changes the second and the third step, so you have the information in the data lake before it's transformed. This change of paradigm is key to have a big data infrastructure that is ready for advanced analytics, machine learning models, and new concepts like data marts, data mesh, etc. So the advantages of having ETL and ELT processes are the automation of data integration processes to reduce the risk of errors and inconsistencies in your data, and to improve the efficiency of the analysis. There are also turnovers with this, and are most regarding to data quality and how to deal with large volumes of data. To overcome these challenges, there are two main approaches. So the first one would be to have a compact tool like Talent or Informatica, where you have all the services there. So you would have the ETL part, the data governance, data quality, etc. And the second approach would be having microservices and build all the infrastructure upon those microservices. So for the ETL part, for example, you could have a Docker container or Kubernetes container for parallel processing, and then you could also have native tools like AWS Glue or Databricks for Azure. Here you have an example of a microservice approach. So as you can see here in the first step, we would have data is coming from SAP, then this data would arrive to our ingestion layer. We would have some quality checks. This would pass into the staging layer, and then all the ETL process would start to transform the data, and finally we would send the data to MySQL cluster, and the Power BI dashboard would feed from it. So now that we already have our data prepared in the different layers, we will need to automate all of this. So for that we have orchestration and continuous integration and continuous deployment tools. So orchestration is the process of automating the tasks needed to manage connections and operation of workloads. So in other words, it's the tool that connects the different services that are used in an end-to-end project. In data engineering, as you saw in the previous slide, we use the orchestration to build the different to pass the data from the different layers and then call different services that feed from that data. So to make sure that all the code that we develop is up to date, we use CI and CD tools. So these tools help us to develop the code at the same time and then send these changes into a global repository where we can deploy it into different environments. For orchestration, we have external tools like Airflow, but we also have native tools in AWS like step functions or logic apps in Azure. For continuous integration and continuous deployment tools, the main tools are Git and Jenkins. Git is a version control system for excellence, and it helps to track the changes that are made into a specific line of code inside of a project. Jenkins, on the other hand, is an automation tool that helps build pipelines that graph all of the changes that are made in the code and deploys them in the environment of your choice. So here you can see what it's called a DAG, or the direct acyclic graph of a step function in AWS. So what this does is to call each one of the processes in parallel and then in series. So we, for example, in this one, we calculate a table and then we measure some KPIs and we send those KPIs into the MySQL database. So now that we have the data ready and clean, the two terms that come up are analysis and visualization. So for these two kind of jobs, normally we have data analyst and data scientist. They both play a key role inside of the data lifecycle as they analyze the tendencies, do forecasting, and facilitate the comprehension of the data to the business. Both AWS and Azure have native services that can use to analyze the data and build machine learning models, as you can see in the presentation. But as always, you can also use external tools like Excel for analysis or Python libraries like TensorFlow and scikit-learn for machine learning models. As for the visualization part, tools like Tableau ClickView or Power BI are essential to show the business how things are going through interactive dashboards that can help make best decisions for the company. So the last aspect I would like to highlight in the presentation is regarding data governance and data quality. So data governance ensures the effective and efficient use of the information inside of a data lake. The data governance teams are the ones that assure that all the tables and interactions in the data lake are standardized and homogeneous. Data quality, on the other hand, assures the integrity of the data that is being used. Both terms are essential to accomplish all of that we talked about before, because without governance and quality, we can neither build tendency dashboards nor predictive machine learning models. If we are not sure that our data is accurate, we won't be able to trust the information that we extract from it. So the usual strategy that is used in organizations to have a good data governance inside of our data lake is to divide the data in different zones or buckets. So what we talked about before in the storage architecture section. So once the data is divided, we can use tools like Cloudera, TrueDat, or IBM Governance to have a sort of an index where anyone can go and check it. You can think of it as a dictionary where you can look for definitions of tables, comprehend its behavior, what are they used for, etc. For data quality, on the other hand, things are a bit more messy, because as you can imagine, it's not so easy to detect inaccurate data. Normally, when the project is in an early stage, the development team needs to sit down with the business team to understand the data that is going to be processed. So they ask which standards they use to know if the data that they see is right or wrong. Then we can extract metrics and set them in tools like Talent or Great Expectations. So when the data is traveling to our different layers, these metrics will see if there is something that is inaccurate in the data. When this happens, we can set rules to not let the data arrive before fixing it. In this way, we won't have inaccurate data in our data lake. So with this being said, the presentation is over. I would like to do a quick recap of what we talked about. So we explained what is a data lake and what it's used for. We explained different cloud environments that are available. We talked about storage infrastructure, how to ingest the data with ETL and ELT tools. We also explained how to automate all these processes with orchestration and continuous ingestion, continuous integration and continuous deployment tools. We also talked about the roles of data scientists and data analysts inside the data lifecycle and the importance of data governance and data quality inside of a data lake. So that was it for my part. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
So, any question? Okay, continue. So when you talked about splitting the data into buckets, and then later for this data governance topic, I'm wondering if you have any tips on how to make this efficient, because I'm understanding that according to how the buckets are split, it's going to be more or less efficient to get different kinds of data. But then with data governance, like if you have a group of people managing one part of the data, if you split by years, it doesn't seem very intuitive to me to have somebody who's responsible for 2 years and then somebody else who's responsible for the next 2 years in terms of data governance. I don't really see how it works.
So,
Sana, could you repeat the question, because I'm not sure if everyone was able to do it.
Yeah. So
Summarize it better than I did.
I will try.
You should do.
I will try.
I'm not very concise.
So she was asking how to deal with partitioning in the part of data governance, right? So how do you deal with data divided by years when you want to apply data governance? So normally the data governance teams are more focused on the last part of the layer, so that would be the processing layer. And normally with tools like the ones that I said before, so for example, I work with TrueDat, you can have like an index of all of the tables that are inside of the processing layer, and that tool doesn't really focus on the year, so it focuses on the name of the. So for example, let's go back. So here, right, before splitting into the days, you would have customer contacts. So you would create like an index table in customer contacts. So the data governance team would focus on that and would make an index of the different fields inside the table. And I don't know if there are GDPR because there are customer contacts or whatever.
So the workflow is, once you have split the data, you have kind of a data catalog,
Exactly.
metadata, so you can just go there and extract the information you need to know about that specific
Exactly.
data.
For yes, yeah,
And because the data governance process is not easy, it's like several steps.
Yeah, so normally the data catalog is divided in different tables, and
Yeah.
so it would end here, as you can see. This is not part of the data catalog, so it's more, a part of the partitioning inside of the table. So the catalog would have information of customer contacts, and then if you want to access that catalog, you specify the year and the month and the day that you want to check from that specific table.
So you say that you can do this process automatic through a tool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You can give it some rules or something that.
Yeah, for example, if I receive the data today, when I store this data inside of the layer, I can divide it by the year, and the process will go to customer contacts and will create a new folder, which would be 2023, and a new month would be February, and would store the data there. I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah, thank you. Just thinking out a question.
You had
Yes,
a question?
I had a question about data governance, about the ownership. So, which part of the organization should be owner of the data governance, and how should this be?
Yeah, so I'm not really an expert of data governance, but I will try to answer. Normally in data lake architecture or data mesh architecture, there are bucket owners or business owners that they are the ones in charge of the data that is stored inside of their data lake or of their product. So every time there is an inconsistency, you would have to ask that person, because he's or she's the one that is supposed to be the owner of the data. And data governance team always need to work with this person, because he's the one that knows which kind of data are entering inside of its data lake or data mesh or whatever. So it's a bit of everyone needs to be like in sync, not only the owner, also data engineers and the data governance. Everyone needs to play like their part, because if I know that I'm ingesting a data inside of a folder, it's called customer, I should know that probably this would have GDPR and GDPR, and I would have to encrypt that field. So if I don't do that, the data governance team will come to me and say, well, maybe we have like a breach in our data.
As you named the owner of the data, you mean more analytics person, like data analyst, or more say, business person?
Yeah, it's for the ones that I've known, they are normally like a bit hybrid. So there are people that are a bit techie, but they're also been part of the company for a very long time, and they know the business and the data that is coming to the data lake.
But I get that they would need some assistance from
Yeah, of course, they always, yeah.
to take a look on the data.
Yeah, he's always like, or she's always in the middle, you know, like talking to the business people and also to the data engineers to know which is entering to the data lake. Yeah. So, yeah.
So thinking from a startup perspective, if I start really from scratch, because this is also part of the title, where or are there the tools that you mentioned, so AWS or do they have like free versions that I could start with? I don't know if anyone has any ideas about the pricing, or is there, for example, Google Cloud, do they offer some benefits that you could, you know, put your first steps on, or do they charge you per, I don't know, ingestion or whatever? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so all of them charge you for normally for what you use and only for what you use. So what is cool about the cloud services is that when you build something with microservices and you make sure that, I don't know, if you launch an ETL and that it's only lasts for 2 minutes, you will be only charged for those 2 minutes. And then the process will shut down and you won't be charged for anything else. I know that for startups, Google Cloud has more efficient, prices, and AWS and Azure are a bit more expensive. And I don't think that neither of them has free versions. So you can have like a free version to test some things, but if you want to build something, you will need to pay in all three of them. But maybe Google Cloud would be the best approach.
So I don't know if there's any questions. No? Good.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your talk. Really interesting.
Thank you.
And if anyone else has any question, so we can
Yes.
go
Yeah.
to the networking session.
The last slide, so.
Oh yeah, if you want to put the last one, so we can share the QR code so you can scan or check
Yes.
the positions any have. Feel free to scan or the people from the Twitch session or
from home,
something. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So are you gonna